Welcome to Movies in a Few Minutes. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It's 2015. Son Yeonjin is in New York. She's frantically looking for someone. In voiceover, she shares that life carried on after he left and signs of his existence eventually faded away. In the lapse of time, we ran around in circles. Will that person wait for you in that original place? She asks. We go back to 2007. Yeonjin's dad has been very sick then, and needless to say, they were financially broke. But despite that, her parents still send her to the best high school in town. It's Yeonjin's first day in the new school. Out of nowhere, a rider in black leather jacket run over a random garden hose. And thanks to water pressure, the hose goes about in frenzied directions, accidentally soaking Yeonjin in the process. He taps her shoulders, telling her to be careful next time. Bad rider is none other than Chae Jung, the second-generation heir of an affluent family and the school's Prince Charming. Chae Jung clearly fell head over heels in love with Yeonjin at first sight. Again, in voiceover, Yeonjin relays that meeting him made her life an earth-shaking experience. At the school, she meets Mo Yuha, her only friend, Meng Shui, who treated her like the ultimate foe, Sang Ming, Meng Shui's errand boy, and Josie, an all-around goofy guy. Apparently, they're all classmates. Yeonjin isn't the brightest bulb when it comes to math, so it doesn't come as a surprise that she flunks the subject. Adding salt to the wound, Z teases her about it. One day, Chae Jung offers to tutor her, but she refuses. Just to get her attention, he grabs her math book away. As she desperately tries to retrieve it from him, the napkin she inserted on the pages falls to the floor. Embarrassed, Yeonjin shoves the napkin to his chest and leaves. Chae Jung apologizes, but she's not ready to forgive. He returns her book and insistently nudges her to look inside. His persistence is getting on her nerves, so she moves her chair, accidentally trampling his foot. Guiltily, she suddenly removes her chair and reads the scribbles he wrote on her book. He gave her some pointers for the math exam. Zi confronts Yeonjin and tells her to own up to responsibility of injuring Chae Jung, either by taking care of him or just compensate with money. Yeonjin chooses the second option though and gives him her ATM card. Z, being the insensitive douche, wastes the money to buy everyone ice cream. Yuha then angrily tells Chae Jung that the money they took is supposedly Yeonjin's allowance for a month. Learning this, Chae Jung returns her ATM with a huge sum deposited in it. This gesture, however, doesn't sit well with Yeonjin. She hands back the excess, saying she doesn't need anyone's charity. Eventually, they become closer to each other and develop a certain tacit relationship. It's an open secret as far as everyone is concerned. Everything's going fine until Yeonjin's dad dies. She's been gone for days and Chae Jung patiently waits for her return. After a few days, she comes back. Chae Jung dashes to talk to her, but she sadly pleads him to stay away from her until they graduate. Chae Jung understands and promises to oblige. He keeps his word, and the next thing she knew, it's already the end of high school. Yeonjin silently watches her batchmates enjoying their graduation ball when Meng Shui comes to talk to her. Meng Shui notes that love is indeed a formidable force. She knew Chae Jung for 18 years and loved him just as long, but it can't even be compared to the months he spent with Yeonjin. Chae Jung is a Prince Charming, but definitely she's not the Cinderella. To put it more bluntly, they're not suited for each other and he's nice because of sympathy. On cue, Chae Jung walks toward them and invites Yeonjin for a dance. She tries to turn him down, but he just grabs her hand and leads her to the dance floor. Looking at the love-struck couple, Meng Shui can only shed broken-hearted tears. Suddenly, the electricity is cut off and Chae Jung uses the opportunity to hug her tight. After a minute or two, the power comes back. Yeonjin then realizes her mistake and scurries off. Chae Jung follows her outside. Without much preamble, he invites her to come with him to Beijing, but she's understandably reluctant to take the bold step. She keeps her silence and stares at the moon. Chen Jiang then shouts and asks for her to be his girlfriend and be with him in Beijing. Now that his feelings are out in the open, he's pretty confident she won't say no. Yunjin leans in for a kiss. She bids him good night and goodbye and smiles. Eyes gleaming, Chen Jiang gives her a full, contented smile in return. She turns to leave, and when she's a few steps away from him, she breaks down. Turns out, it's her last gift to him. A year after, 2008 to be exact, Yunjin is now a freshman in college. She's working at a local library. There, she meets Sheng Wan. He offers her part-time jobs every now and then. One time, he asks her about her dream and she answers she has none because a dream is something beyond her reach and she's content living quietly and healthy. They have grown close and it's becoming apparent he likes her. When Yuha asks what she really feels about him, Yunjin honestly conveys that he makes her think of the bright moon and fine breeze, unlike Chen Jiang, whom she describes as earth-shaking. One day, Chen Jiang suddenly comes back to her life, acting like nothing happened between them. Shen Wan sees them talking and introduces himself as her boyfriend. Chen Jiang laughs at the coincidence and tells him he's Yunjin's boyfriend too. Feeling the tension between the two boys, Yunjin tells Chen Jiang to shut it. He, however, dismisses her worries and offers them a lift to the temple. Zhang Yu, Chen Jiang's sister, drives them there and they each write their prayers. On the way out, Zhang Yu tells Sheng Wan to go with her to buy something. Giving Chen Jiang and Yunjin the much-needed alone time, Chen Jiang confesses that he tried forgetting her, but he just can't and begs her to at least tell him what part of him is not good enough. Instead of answering him, Yunjin turns to go. He stops her with a back hug and refuses to let go until she gives him answers. She then faces him, reminding that they're in a temple and Buddha's watching. Chen Jiang is unfazed and retorts that Buddha must have known he has been suffering. He forces to kiss her and she struggles to escape from his grasps. Meanwhile, Shen Wan is looking from afar. The trio is now in a restaurant. Chen Jiang offers her booze, but she declines. Year 2011, Yunjin visits her mom for the holidays and there she meets Uncle Wu, her mom's suitor. Yunjin gives her approval to the relationship and mom is grateful. And just like the last time, Chen Jiang suddenly reappears in her life. His family bought the electronic factory in the neighborhood, that's why he's there. Yunjin is busy making bunny lanterns, so she tells Chen Jiang to stop bothering her. Chen Jiang then offers to give her 50 yuan for her time, but this just riles her up. She chastises him for taking money for granted. The 30 yuan may be nothing to him, but for them, it's already living expenses good for 2 days. She walks off and leaves Chen Jiang alone. When she returns, she finds him working on the bunny lanterns. The next morning, Chen Jiang proudly shows her his finished lanterns. His works may not be perfect, but she knows he tried his best. She takes his pricked hands and thanks him. Again, he invites her to stay with him in Beijing. She smiles and nods. Chen Jiang vows not to let her run away this time. To be with Chen Jiang, Yunjin starts to send resume to Beijing-based companies like crazy, but to no avail. In desperation, she grabs the job offer to Shanghai. She informs Chen Jiang about it and of course, he gets angry. Without thinking twice, She buys a train ticket to Beijing. On the way there, Chen Jiang calls and tells her he's on his way to Shanghai. The lovers are staying in a two-bed hotel room. A year after, they start to live together. Chen Jiang is supposedly bound for the States, but he stalls just to spend more time with Yanjun. Unknown to them, Z and Yuha are having an affair, but sadly it's only one-sided. When Z informs Yuha that he's getting married, she smiles and congratulates him. Just to forget the heartache, Yuha decides to accept the scholarship to Germany. Yanjun can only hug her and reminds her to take care of herself always. At her birthday party, Zhang Yu announces she'll be marrying Shen Wan. Chen Jiang is not happy about it though, saying that Shen Wan is only after her money, but Zhang Yu couldn't care less. Yanjun congratulates Shen Wan for the engagement, but he just shrugs it off, admitting he's only marrying for money. She asks him why he's telling her that, and he answers it's because they're the same. She refutes and tells him they're not. It's raining hard, and since Eugene is afraid to ruin her new shoes, she takes it off. Chen Jiang can't let her walk barefooted, so he gives her a piggyback ride. Yanjun then asks why he didn't give up on her. Chen Jiang jokingly answers that it's because he's afraid nobody can stand her bad temper. Yanjun laughs and asks if that means he'll marry her. Chen Jiang is undeniably happy with the prospect and promises not to leave her in this lifetime. Fast forward to 2014. Yanjun learns that her mom is diagnosed with cervical cancer, and to finance her operation, Uncle Wu embezzled money from Chen Jiang's company. Uncle Wu discloses that Chen Jiang got him a job at his company and told him to keep it as a secret from her. Yanjun feels ashamed and borrows money from friends to pay for the embezzled funds. Chen Jiang is already home when Yanjun returns. He hands her the money for Uncle Wu, but she declines because she already borrowed money from Shen Wan. This sets him off guard. He feels insulted that she turns to Shen Wan for a big issue like that instead of him. Yanjun explains that she can no longer ask for his help because he already helped her enough. And the reason why she went to Shen Wan is because they're the same and they know what poverty means. Chen Jiang leaves without a word. Chen Jiang goes to Shen Wan. He throws him the money Yanjun owed him and tells him to stay away from Yanjun. Shen Wan sneers and returns the extra payment simply because it was Yanjun he helped after all. Chen Jiang retorts that his woman doesn't need his help, but Shen Wan angrily counters that she willingly came on her own and asked for it. Yanjun finds Chen Jiang drinking at a random bar with Meng Shui and Song Ming. She convinces him to go home, but he refuses and puts a hand over Meng Shui. She gives up and dejectedly tells Song Ming to take care of Chen Jiang and get him home safe. The moment Chen Jiang returns home, Yanjun gives him an IOU of the 3 million yuan she owed. He immediately rips it to shreds, asking how on earth can she repay the pain she caused him. She remains silent, and so he pushes her to the couch, kissing her forcefully. When she just lay down there without a word, he stops. She removes her cardigan and pulls him close. Maybe she thinks she can pay him with her body or something. Chen Jiang is not in the mood for that. He clearly reached his breaking point. It has been 6 years since the first time he saw her. 6 freaking years, and she still doesn't love him. Hearing his pained realization, Yunjin breaks down in front of him. He calls it quits. After a few days, he flies to the States. Months passed and Yunjin has been very busy with work. She's still in contact with Yuha, who also appears to have moved on from Z. Yunjin, time is really something fearful. It can heal everything. No matter how good or bad the memories are, it will shave them away, leaving us blurry scars. And then we return to 2015, to the very first scene. She's looking for him and stops in front of a hotel. And there she sees him.